in the end zone. It's caught and into the end zone. Touchdown! 13 throws it behind Caleb Johnson. Caleb breaks through a couple people, gets across the 30. Oh, still going. Ran through a third one, still going. Cuts back to the middle. 40, 35, 30, 25, 20. It's going to be a touchdown.
Welcome back into the Iowa Fan Perspective here on Play the Fight Song in this family of networks. I'm JP. Thank you for tuning in. We're here to talk Hawks as we are every single week. This week, we're doing a little bit differently. We're going to recap the Iowa State game from last week. We're going to go into an interview with Christian McCollum of Minuteman Command. He did an awesome job talking UMass for us. We were able to get him on, and he went through kind of where UMass sits currently through 2 games, what the expectations for the program are, a little roster breakdown, as well as talking through a little bit of what the coach had to say today during his press conference in UMass. So we're tons of things to get to here. We'll jump into the interview first. After that, we'll talk a recap, where I kind of feel this team is, expectations for the rest of the year, as well as a couple other things that I saw kind of floating around social media, and just wanted to give my take on everything. And then we'll give a prediction and we'll get out of here. But let's start off with the interview. Again, Christian McCollum of Minuteman Command. Find them on X at UMass Command or MinutemanCommand.com. Thanks for joining us, Christian, and we'll send it off to the interview. Appreciate Christian McCollum joining us from Minuteman Command. We're going to talk UMass and the Minutemen and the football program here. Appreciate you jumping on, Christian. How's everything going? How's your day been? I know you just got done with the presser not too long ago.
Yeah, everything's going about as good as it could right now. I mean, if we were texting right now and you said, how's it going in regard to UMass football, I think it would probably be where I'd insert that Mad Men gift of not great, Bob, you know? So
yeah, that's
going about as good as it could so far.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find Christian and all their stuff on MinutemanCommand.com, as well as at UMass Command on X. Tons of good stuff over there. Got a chance to listen into the presser today from Coach Harris-Simiak, as well as some other pieces they've done with the AD over there at UMass and stuff. It's been awesome content. And wanted to get someone on who knows UMass a little bit more. Maybe we're 2 games into the season, get a little insight on where the program sits, how we're feeling on certain spots. And so let's kind of jump into it right there. UMass coming off a loss to FCS Bryant a week ago. Felt like it was a game that was kind of in hand. You went up late, had a couple things not go your way, end up in a field goal that ends in a loss. Coach Harris-Simiak was actually just talking about kind of how that game went and how it just felt like there's a lot of correctable things that happened. It wasn't as much an effort thing. It was a lot of things that just maybe weren't done correctly. And he's a guy who's going to tell you how it is. I was just telling you before we started, he's awesome to listen to. I think he's one of the better coaches who just kind of speaking his mind and really articulating how he's feeling. So what's kind of the feel of the fan base right now? You look at, week 1 with the Temple loss, which we weren't really sure what Temple was going to be, but you knew Casey Keller was going to make that a little bit of a better program. And then going into this week, kind of where is everything? How's the fan base feeling? How are you feeling covering UMass right now?
I'm feeling fine as a reporter, but the fan base is as low as it could be right now, and understandably so. UMass has, since they've entered FBS, they've consistently been pretty much the worst team, right? And the fan base was, it wasn't a universal decision to fire Don Brown after last year. He was kind of a UMass legend. Some people thought it was time to change. Other people didn't. Both kind of sides have their own kind of have a good argument for either side. Either way, new coaching staff comes in. Their roster turned over. They use the transfer portal a ton. Brought in a whole new coaching staff. A lot of reasons for optimism, at least on the surface. We really believe there still is reasons for optimism, but none have been shown so far.
Yeah.
So I got a fan base that's really, really frustrated already. You come in, they're saying, hey, here's, this is going to be all different. It's going to be changed now. We got new people in place all over the place. And then you come out, you lose 42-10 to Temple, a game that coming into it, people thought could go either way. That was very disappointing. And then to lose to FCS Bryant, as you mentioned, Coach Harris-Simiak, kind of went through the second half and everything that went wrong there, and how they could have won the game. But it's FCS Bryant, right? So, it shouldn't even be a game, they were up late, but they had a chance. They were up 20-3 at the end of the first half, and you have a chance to go in 3-score lead at halftime, and they allow them to come down and score within 2 minutes. So that really, really, they could have won that game, but it's FCS team. It shouldn't even be a game. So
Yeah.
fans are understandably frustrated is an understatement.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just looking back through the box score and everything, you dealt with, a quarterback injury. Brandon Rose not going to play this weekend, kind of what it sounded like. I'm not sure if any other news came out on how bad it was or what the situation was. Is it more so, take a couple weeks, or is it something that's going to kind of linger throughout the season with his injury?
Harrison Miak said it's a shoulder and that the x-rays were negative. He did kind of hint that maybe he would have a chance to play. There's actually 9 starters out that he announced today, and Brandon Rose being one of them. I don't anticipate him playing. Obviously, you don't expect a coach to say, we don't have a chance in this game, so we're not going to, they're not going to run anybody out. You would never say that, or maybe even think that. But this is probably a game. UMass fans are not expecting a win. Brandon Rose, if you have a bye next week. And it's not just for Brandon Rose either. There's a lot of guys that are banged up. This is a game where UMass fans, they would probably be happy just to get out healthy. So, but I'm not sure this is anything that's going to be too lengthy for Rose. Like I said, x-rays were negative, but all we've been told is it's a shoulder. We don't have any more extent to it.
Yeah, I think he was actually asked in the presser today, like, hey, are we just aiming, is the goal to get out of this weekend healthy? He goes, no, the goal is to win the game. I'm like, yeah, like, what do you want him to say? Like, the guy's an optimist. He's going to come in and try to win a football game. You can't sell trying to just stay healthy out of a weekend, even if that might be in the back of your mind. You kind of look at what UMass is now back in the MAC. I don't feel like there's a team. I think there's 2 or 3 teams at the top of the MAC that really serve on kind of like the top side of that. But I don't think that UMass is like way below any of them there. I don't think they're way better than certain teams. I think the MAC, right, you go to the middle to the bottom of the MAC, it's all pretty close, right? Like, you're going to go through spreads that are 2 to 6 to 8 points, most of it. And so maybe like keeping him healthy and going that direction is probably the smarter move. But I mean, I understand kind of like the fan base and kind of how they're feeling, but it doesn't feel like, if I'm UMass, that I feel like I'm out or this season's a waste to this point at all.
Yeah, I mean, when you asked me to come on this show even before the season, I think, right, looking ahead, and I fully anticipated at that point, like, UMass surprising in a good way, right? So I bet UMass. I'm pretty confident UMass be better than most people think. Nope, they've surprised in a bad way, right? So they are worse than we expect them to be. And there was very little world where we talked about potentially losing to Bryant, and that just happened. So. I mean, coming into the season, I thought they could be one of those middle teams in the MAC. But right now, just to be honest, like, I shouldn't say they haven't shown anything, but what they've shown, the negatives are, severe enough that, it's hard to make an argument that they're going to go in and win 3 MAC games or 4 MAC games or anything like that. They could, but I couldn't, make that argument right now.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to an earlier point you made, like, when they made the change to Harrison Miak, there's people that saying like, oh, well, we're really happy with where we are. You're kind of getting rid of somebody that's kind of established a program. Iowa's going to end up at the same situation at some point. Like, it's a matter of time until they choose to move from Kirk Ferentz. And there's going to be people that say, why would you ever do such a thing? And then there's going to be people say it's about darn time. Like, can't make anybody happy, but it does get tough when things don't go your way early in a regime or anything like that. Yeah. Talk about kind of last week, when Rose goes down, you bring in Grant Jordan, and then it sounds like, is there a chance that Harrison plays this weekend as well? Are they kind of going back and forth, or is it going to be Grant Jordan's job for the weekend?
If I had to guess, it would be Grant Jordan's job. I that wouldn't rule out Harrison playing. And when Harrison came in for his series, he looked dang sharp, right? He can really throw it. I mean, he truly does have elite level arm talent. Now Grant Jordan can run around and extend plays, and he showed that on Saturday. Some ups, some downs. He threw a pick and probably missed a couple passes, but in terms of making plays with his legs and then even throwing it, he did a really, really good job. Really impressed me. Played better than I thought he would. As I said, Harrison I really believe he has elite level arm talent. He's not quite as mobile as those guys, right? And he can't extend the plays. And I sort of asked Harrison about it, and I think he got where I was going. But if you knew that UMass's offensive line was going to protect, I think they could, like, Harrison would be in a very, very good quarterback.
Gotcha.
But against Iowa, I'm not sure you can count on UMass's offensive line to protect. And so if it's going to be a scrambling around, try to make Johnny Manziel type plays that's going to be Grant Jordan. That's going to go more to Grant Jordan's style of play. But, as we go down the season, depending on how healthy Rose is, I would not be shocked at all to see Hairston get a legitimate chance. And I truly, the coaching staff, from what I've been told, they are extremely impressed with Hairston, even though he's kind of been number 3 on the depth chart. It doesn't take long to watch the kid throw the ball. He can throw it.
Yeah, completely understand that. I mean, I think there's a chance here. We're going to go through some of the offensive playmakers here for UMass right now. Like on the running back side, Rocco Griffin, 20 carries, 114, a touchdown on the year. Brandon Hood, 13 carries. So that's kind of a dual threat here. Is there a particular back here that kind of gets more carries just based on talent, or they try to spread it around, like ride the hot hand a little bit more? Just kind of looking at the box scores, it felt like whoever had the hot hand most of the time, that's been Griffin. That's who they've been rocking with in the backfield.
Yeah, Rocco's going to be the lead guy. Hood got a lot more carries this past weekend than he did the previous weekend, but that was one of the kind of the criticism of the opener. I mean, Rocco I think he had 9 carries for 93 yards in the first half against Temple. And then he only had 1 carry the rest of the game. Now, obviously, a lot of that's game script, and the game got away from him. But a lot of people are like, man, this guy's, he busted a 41-yard run. He busted an 18-yard touchdown. So he's the lead guy. He's a pretty good size guy, and he can move. Hood is a little bit more explosive, a little more dynamic. They obviously believe in him. He came in at some short yardage carries as well. So Rocco will be the lead guy, then Hood, and then they have another guy, Juwan Price, who really is a bigger back, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some time as well.
Yeah, and then you go to the receiver room. I mean, there's one guy here that's like, get me the football immediately. You look at Jaquan Gibson, if I make sure I'm saying that right, 19 receptions, 221 yards. I feel like, and you're kind of talking about if Hairston gets a shot to play this weekend, I feel like you try your best to put Gibson in position to go win one-on-ones, and you look on the flip side where Iowa's going to be, they're going to put a Deshaun Lee on there, who's kind of like the weaker of the 2 DBs, and let a kid go make a play almost is the feel. How does that kind of work? And does it feel like it's maybe a one-trick pony with the offense in the receiving game, or is he just that good? We need to get him the football as much as possible.
He's that good, right? So, and I don't think it's necessarily a one-trick pony. I mean, they've really kind of, I don't want to say spread it around evenly, but a lot of the receivers have made plays. Jake McConaughey, who's going to be out, has made plays. T.Y. Harding is probably like the guy coming into the season you thought would be the game breaker. He's going to be out, but he made plays the first half against Temple. Donnie Gray is a transfer from Northwestern. He made a huge play late in the fourth quarter for UMass. So he's a good guy that can make plays. And then Tyree Kelly is a transfer from UCF who he's had a few nice catches so far this year. But yes, Jaquan is the guy that they've been feeding. He even got a carry last week. He took a hitch, made one guy miss, stiff-armed another guy in the opener, had an explosive play. And so it's clear they're going to try to get him the ball as often as they can. He's the lead guy. But if they had their full complement of receivers, which they won't without Harding and McConaughey, they really do have some pretty decent pieces there.
Yeah, last couple questions here on the offense. Like, what's the key to make this offense run? And then are there some other names? I know you just kind of ran through the receiver room and some guys that get some real upside and real talent. Is there any other names that we need to kind of know and understand for this UMass team?
Yeah, and not so much. I mean, Max Dowling is a tight end. Reese Atkins is a tight end. They made some plays. At the receiver position, I would expect Kelly and Gibson, those guys to really shoulder the burden this week. And as I mentioned, Griffin and Hood will be the running backs. The key to this UMass offense right now this week without those pieces is really going to be just kind of finding ways to stay ahead of the chains, right? It sounds so cliche, but they can't suffer. They had holding penalties, ineligible man downfield penalties, illegal formation penalties, sacks. They are going to have to stay away from all that stuff. They have no chance if they're going to be playing from 2nd and 20 and 3rd and 18 and anything like that. If Jordan's the guy, I would expect him to be put in a position to make some plays with his legs. The QB runs, I think, are, in addition to him being able to do them, UMass's offensive line has not been dominant. So when you run the quarterback, you're able to get an extra blocker there. So I think they must need to take advantage of that. So they're going to have to be ball control, stay ahead of the change, and convert on 3rd down. The other thing is offensively, they've been very bad, awful in the red zone. And so they had, 1st and goal from the 7 this week. They weren't able to get in. First and 14, they got a sack, a hold penalty.
Mhm.
Against Temple, they were first and goal from the 3, failed to get in. And so a lot of that is just, if you have a dominant offensive line, you should be able to score on Temple, and you certainly should be able to score on Bryant. Just running the ball. If you're not able to do that, you're not going to be able to do it against Iowa.
Yeah.
So I think that if they are fortunate enough to get down to the red zone enough, I'm interested to see how they scheme it up down there. I think you'd see a lot of misdirection, a lot of mesh concepts, those kind of things, rollouts. Maybe get Jordan a chance to either throw the ball or run it in. But they've got to stay away from penalties, sacks, and anything that causes them to go backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch to the defense here. I felt like it was kind of tough to get a feel on where this defense is, like relative to the MAC in some spots. I know you kind of went into the Temple game, got in a good spot. Halftime kind of felt like, just change a couple things. We'll be back in this one in no time. Where does this kind of sit right now? It looks like the secondary, along with a lot of the turnover, is kind of the tougher spot right now. But how does the defense look? Who do we need to pay attention to? Do we have a certain guy in the front 5 or front 4 that is a little more disruptive than getting credit for?
Unfortunately, not really. Not an individual guy that's been consistently getting pressure. That's part of it. I mean, the back end has really, really been weak, but a lot of it is the lack of pressure up front. So, the defense has been, especially against the pass, like literally horrendous, right? Like, I'm 43 years old. I haven't played a down of football since I was 17 years old, and I haven't really even craved playing a down of football. Yeah. Although watching this team, I could get open against these guys. I think I could, today, get open. It kind of makes
a nice little sticker out your way open.
I mean, I understand you look at the back end and they've been really bad. But that lack of pressure or lack of consistent pressure. Now they've gotten home, every now and then and come up with big sacks, but it's almost like sometimes it seems like they're playing a video game on defense. Like EA 26 is very difficult to play defense right now. That's kind of what it feels like when they're playing. Someone might be second and 20, but you're like, oh, they're just going to run a flag route and they're going to get at least 18. It's really, really tough, right now. One guy that stood out is TJ McGee, the cornerback. But even he had a rough time. A little bit was tested last week, but beyond their secondary is in shambles, right?
Yeah.
They're starting safeties are on. Daniels out. Starting cornerback Bo Barnes hasn't played all year, and they're down to 5th and 6th string guys. So those guys have just not been able to hold up, and it's not just the secondary. The linebackers have not been able to stay with running backs out of the backfield. The first game there was some miscommunication that caused some busts, and that's understandable. But I even wrote it after the first game, it was more concerning to me when there was not miscommunication, when there was just guy that knew what he was doing and had no chance to stick with him. So the defense as a whole, I mean, Bryant just really just said they became one dimensional, not because they were forced to, but because they would be dumb not to, and they just threw the ball over the yard.
Yeah, I kind of look at what Iowa's done, and the running the gag on the offense and whatnot, continue to just not throw for 100 yards quite yet this season, and so it gives the opportunity to kind of work that and try and make those improvements. But at the same time, if you're looking at a UMass roster where the turnover was so heavy and now you're down a bunch of guys early in the season, for the outlook of a guy who's trying to build a program and change the feel within it, maybe that's an opportunity for a lot of these young guys or people that are a little more experienced to get a shot to play and change things a little bit. On the linebacking core or on the defensive line, what's the run stopping situation kind of look like? Obviously, it's a tall task anytime you go play an FBS opponent from one of the power conferences, but it didn't seem like people really tried to. You were just talking about it became so bad and so easy for them to throw it. They kind of abandoned the run. When the run game was kind of part of an offensive scheme, how were they against that?
They didn't look embarrassing, right? There was times when they would stop the run, and it looks really, legitimate. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's you don't want to take anything away from them by just saying, oh, they were just throwing because they knew you couldn't stop it. There were times when they would stop the run. They did get off the field a few times. So if there's a strength of the defense, it would clearly be the run defense. But in a small sample size where they were getting just torched on the back end, it's hard to say that's a strength. If just it hasn't been exposed yet. But I don't know that it would be. They seem to be holding up. They have good, their linebackers are pretty good against the run. You got, Tyler Martin, he did have a pick 6 against Bryant. Timmy Hinspeeder, Darion Craig, these guys have, for the most part, played pretty good against the run. It's against the pass and covering backs out of the backfield. And if it's tight end, the tight end killed them against Temple. It's been really, really, really difficult for them.
Well, I appreciate you kind of talking through them a little bit. Kind of want to talk about like the rest of the season, what maybe the projection or the expectation is for the rest of the season for UMass. What would be a success to the fan base? And then how do you kind of see this thing playing out the rest of the year for them?
So they're really in a tough spot, right? So like we always knew coming in that opener against Temple was going to be pivotal, assuming they were going to beat Bryant, right? So you kind of say, if you can beat Temple and then you beat Bryant, you're 2-0. You're going to Iowa. After Iowa, they have a bye, but then they go to Missouri, right? So nobody had any expectations of going in there and shocking the world. I should say nobody on the outside had any expectations of going to Iowa or Missouri and shocking the world. And then when they come back, they'll get into MAC play. So the fan bases, their expectations are extremely low. Like they don't have any probably right now at this point. Personally, I think if you can win 3 games in the MAC, I think that would help salvage a season. I really think it's going to be difficult for fans to get that Bryant loss out of their mouth, and rightly so. But I think if you can get in the MAC, if you can beat a couple of the teams that are comparable to you there, and then maybe you kind of get rolling. Coach Sarah-Simiak has repeatedly talked about this team needing to learn how to win. So within that, you kind of think, all right, if you can get 2 wins, maybe you start feeling it and guys get a little more confident. You get a third and, it'd be crazy to think you get a 4th, but that is, I don't think fans will be happy with much. Right. So I don't think this is a thing where it's hard to imagine an end of a season where fans are happy about the totality of it. But from here on out, if they were able to win 3 MAC games, I think that would be more than people expect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just kind of going through the schedule quick. Like, I feel like Kent obviously is probably the worst team in the FBS right now. Akron doesn't look great. They haven't scored a point yet. They brought in a Wyoming team that I was a little higher on. They didn't look great there. And then, there's a chance, that a Northern Illinois, or you could get a Bowling Green or a Central or one of the directional Michigan. You get Western and Central Michigan. And so I think 3's in play, and I think that's a real possibility for the Minutemen this year. Christian, I appreciate you joining. And if you guys are looking for any more Minuteman content, look at UMass Command on X, as well as Minuteman.com. Minutemancommand.com. I have fumbled that 3 or 4 times. Minutemancommand.com for all their stuff. I appreciate you joining, Christian. Been a ton of fun. Good luck this weekend and to UMass for the rest of the year.
Thanks, you too, Jordan.
Thanks again to Christian for joining us there from Minuteman Command. Ton of fun to talk through UMass and kind of where everything sits with them joining the MAC this year, how they feel 2 games in, what the expectations of the fan base are, give you some personnel breakdowns as well. Ton of fun talking to him about that. So we appreciate him and all he does and the rest of the team over there at Minuteman Command. Let's jump into the Iowa State game and recap that a little bit. I know most everybody's kind of gotten a chance to recap that. Let's put it in the rear view. I'm just going to give a couple quick thoughts on everything. It was a struggle to start. Couldn't find the run game. Looked like Iowa State kind of changed up the front and how they did things compared to the first half of season ago. And it really made it hard on Iowa to get the run game going. Missed opportunities and drops. I know Gronowski's numbers weren't great, but a multitude of drops throughout the receiving core. You lose Ostringa to an injury early. And it just felt like when you were looking for something to break through or something to pop, it was a drop. Maybe Gronowski wasn't comfortable in the pocket enough. His pocket presence was tough. I didn't think he needed to move around as much as he did and make as many mistakes as he did that way. Hopefully that comes around, but I need the better pocket presence. I need him to be able to deliver the football in certain spots. Jazz was a really good back. Wish he got more carries in some spots. I think defensively, you got to be happy with what you saw out of Deshaun Lee. I think that's the one thing we were really paying attention to. We know TJ Hall had to stand up and be the best DB for us this year. He was in that spot. I thought the safeties were fine. Lutmer kind of got thrown into a couple weird spots and had to make a couple plays. Jaden Harrell, I think, struggled a little bit. Shire looked good. But, at the end of the day, I didn't expect to win that one. I want to win that one. Don't mistake that for something that's like, oh, he just whatever kind of is what it is. No, that it pissed me off pretty good. But I don't want to sit there and just say season lost, even though it feels like it at this time. I know there's a lot of people out there with a lot of negative thoughts, and I had my own, I'm sure. But you didn't really deserve to win the game in some spots. You caught some breaks, and then when you had a chance to take advantage of their mistakes or make something happen, it didn't happen. I mean, it's that simple, right? You lose a game like that 16-13, kind of tells you everything you need to know, right? Like, it just wasn't there. Like, let's be honest, it just wasn't there, and it's a bad one to lose, and not a big fan of that one. So ready to put that one behind us, but those were kind of my thoughts. I would have liked Jazz to get some more carries. I need Gronowski to be better in the pocket. I thought the offensive defensive line looked good. Rocco's hard guy to get on the ground. He's going to get out of the pocket. I thought we got some pressure, maybe not quite enough, but long way to go. We're 2 games into this thing, and it doesn't get any easier. We'll play UMass, and then we jump into Big Ten play on a Friday night in Piscataway, and then you got to play Indiana, and then you just it gets tough. And so we have to find a way to get better and better at that spot. What's next for the season and what to expect now for Iowa? Couple things that I saw throughout everything. What should be the game plan for UMass and what the expectations are? Somebody brought this to my attention here on X, and should it be UMass is down a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys hurt, a couple DBs, and they're already really rough against the pass. Temple threw for 6 touchdowns on him and like six touchdowns and like 6 total incompletions, right? This should be a game where you have no excuse. You had no excuse against Albany. You have no excuse this week to not be over 75% completion percentage, throwing for over 100, whatever. Is the plan going to be, let's just be vanilla as all get out, let's get out of there with the win, whatever, let it be? Or is it going to be, let's get this offense better and back on track? Like, let's let Gronowski throw the ball a little bit. Let's let him sit in the pocket and figure out a little bit of pocket presence. Let's let the offensive line work on protections. We'll let the offensive line maul guys in a counter spot and some other spots and give a lot of the running backs and receivers touches. Is that the plan, or is it vanilla? Personally, a little bit of both is what I kind of think will happen and kind of want to happen. Yes, I would love Gronowski to throw the ball 30 times, just be like, hey, fuck it. Go out there, sling it around a little bit, right? In reality, you're probably going to get 15 to 20 passes out of him. Hopefully, it's just good enough, and we run the ball really well, and you're up 30 at half, and you're like, Hank Brown, come in and get some snaps as well. That's what I would expect to happen, or want to happen. What I expect to happen is Kirk Ferentz to be like, hey, we're playing vanilla again. Run the football between the tackles 15 times in the first half. We'll see what we're up. Run it again between the tackles a couple times, play action here, play action there. They won't score more than 7 points. We'll be on our way with a 30-7 win. That's ugly as all get out. That's my expectation. And I think that's exactly where we are on everything. I also saw stuff about Tim Lester being the issue here. I think that's asinine. I think everything he did last year to take that team and make it a really good run game was monumental. I don't think it's a Tim Lester thing. I think Tim Lester was told this is the game plan. This is how we're going to try to handle this game. It's how we've done it in the past. And he was like, all right, here we go. And he did the best he could at the situation, and it didn't work. It's just that simple. I think KF said, we're going to work not to lose. We're going to wait for them to lose it. Well, guess what? They didn't, right? And so I don't think they tried different things in the run game, different schemes. You saw a little bit of the slow mesh, right? You saw them try and get a couple pulls with the guard and tackle through some stuff tougher than the 3-3-5 to do so. You saw a couple where it was just schemed RPO situations, or it was a read option on the outside. They found ways to gash Iowa State in the run game. Now, it was probably that last drive before the end of the half, and then it was maybe a little bit in the early second half, but it was never anything that was just dominating the run game or the line of scrimmage, to be completely honest with you. And when that's not supplemented with some form of pass game, whether that's play action, whether that's a deep threat with a Sam Phillips, or, no RVZ hurts, no Stringa to stretch the seam really stunk. It gets tough. And Iowa State put people in the box and said, I dare you to go 75 yards in 2 whole minutes with 2 timeouts and score. Didn't happen. Went backwards only, actually. They brought 3 twice and got 2 sacks. They said multiple times throughout that game, your schemes aren't good enough. Your pass tree isn't good enough. Your routes aren't good enough. You have to run the ball. And as soon as you snap the ball and we see it's a run, and, even if we're bailing out to the pass, there's 8, 9 jerseys there all ready to make a play. And that's exactly how it worked. So I expect this to be vanilla again this weekend and going from there. And I don't think Kirk's going to be any different. And I think Lester's hands are tied a little bit in some spots. Maybe he got more of a leash than Brian Ferentz did, but I don't really think it's that much. Like, I don't think that Lester's the issue. And I think that just needs squashed immediately. Another thing that I kind of saw, and I love the guys over at Iowa Everywhere. They're talking on two guys this morning about this Moneyball idea at the University of Iowa and the number that Gronowski's getting paid and what you paid to get him from South Dakota State, or basically keep him out of the NFL. He wasn't going back to South Dakota State. And it's probably around $2 million. The idea of this Moneyball, you should never pay him $2 million, use that $2 million and just go elite roster everywhere else and use it the other way. Now, the concept at its base is not a bad idea, right? It's not. Like, you kind of make sure you're not overspending on anybody. You go get a roster and you really beef it up with talent. Here's the problem with that is Iowa doesn't recruit through the portal or through the high school ranks good enough to be like $2 million. Like most places buys you 3 or 4 guys. Like if you go look at what people are spending in the portal when guys come out, Iowa doesn't use the portal enough to go get guys and win an NIL battle. They don't even look for guys who are looking to get paid more in their recruiting battle. Even if they do, most guys that come in through the portal don't have KF's trust till 4 games into the season. This is a proven thing. Like, it took Guild a while to get going. You look back at Dijon Parker, the tackle, not really had a ton of time, didn't really play much. Bryce George wasn't even going to probably get very many snaps. I understand he got hurt and he had a big injury. But you look at that, and it's like you can't go through the portal because Kirk's proven he'll go in there a little bit, but he's not going in there for guys to just completely change things. He's not looking for playmakers. He's not looking to spend a ton. He wants guys built in-house. On the high school side of it, you're going to spend money to go win these recruiting battles. 95% of the guys that Iowa recruits aren't in NIL wars and trying to win more and more money. You're not in 4- and 5-star battles all the time. You're fighting for regional kids throughout the Midwest, 3-star kids that you're going to develop. It's already a Moneyball program. You're already playing against the odds. So I think that's the flaw in that, is that you're already trying to grab 3-star kids and develop them up and go that direction and stay out of the high spending, battles and spend the money elsewhere. Maybe that money goes into retention, but you haven't seen a ton of Iowa guys that really jump to bigger programs. Justin Jacobs is the one big one. Would have loved to keep him. I think he would have been an amazing Hawkeye. But that's one you maybe keep. Maybe some of the young tight ends that transferred out you keep in. But I don't think it's this massive, like, $2 million not to the quarterback. I think you spend where you can frickin' spend and go win football games, because it has been a problem. Now, Gronowski had his issues. Lester probably had some issues of his own, who he'd admit. Ferentz had his issues. We know what we're getting at this point in time. So don't be surprised any which way and how it goes. Going into the weekend with UMass, again, I think it's going to be pretty vanilla. Just kind of run the football between the tackles, maybe a play action here or there, high confidence throws, nothing crazy. This line's like, I think it was at 30. I can't remember off the top of my head. I mean, I'll take the Hawks 37-7. It's going to be 30 points or so. It's not going to be too crazy. Nothing to really blow you out of the water. You're not going to sit there and look up and the Hawks have 68. You're not going to look up and the Hawks have 70, like some of these teams are putting on people. Like Nebraska just put on Akron, actually. They look pretty good through 2 weeks. Clones look pretty good. They're 3-0. One of those things, man. I think the Hawks got to find their way, and it's going to have to start with just getting your feet under you and working through the weekend on an opponent that has no business being in the same building as you, just talent-wise. Now, they're going to come in here and try to play. Coach Harris-Simiak at UMass already said, we're here to win. You don't know what's going to happen. I've seen crazier things in the world than Iowa dropping one to UMass. Don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just telling you that's kind of how I'm feeling through everything. So appreciate everybody joining in. Check out our partners over at No Rivals. They have awesome hats, not just Iowa, not just Iowa State, not just Nebraska for our fan perspectives, but a ton of schools throughout the country. Use code PTFS at checkout. Get yourself free shipping. Get you a couple new hats. Really cool stuff they're doing over there, and we appreciate them for being a day one sponsor of Play the Fight Song. Check us out. Ours, our weekly live show Wednesday night, talking all college football, talking all 136. We'll break down games. We'll talk through the sport and where it sits right now. Been a ton of fun. More content coming out week by week and day by day. We appreciate everybody. Thank you, and go Hawks.